Welcome to the virtual reception for my exhibit at the Jaffrey Civic Center. I have, the title of my exhibit is Love That Dirty Water. And it's a collection of street photos from my I have a large collection of street photos of Boston, and this is a subset of that collection. I have 26 prints in the show. I'm sharing the gallery, the Jaffrey Civic Center Cunningham Gallery, with Howard Muscat. Howard Muscat is a landscape and nature photographer, and he has about the same number of prints in his exhibit. I'd like to urge you to come to the Jaffrey Civic Center in Jaffrey, New Hampshire to view these works in person, because I think it's always great to see, I think, the colors and even the black and white, the contrast of the black and whites and the details will be a lot more evident if you see them in person. Also, all of these prints are on sale, so you may find something that will enhance your decor or make a great gift. The shows will be, both exhibits, both Howard's and mine, will be at the Jaffrey Civic Center through the 20th of February. A word about this stream. If you have a Google account, you can chat with me, you can ask questions, and I'll try to respond. Now, there is a delay between what's actually happening in my studio here and when you actually receive the video. So there may be some delay in my responding to questions. The other thing is that this stream is being recorded, and so that if you want to later on, you can go to my YouTube channel at edX Photos and review the stream and make comments and questions there, and I'll try to answer questions there as well. First, before I get into the photos, I'd like to talk a little bit about me. My degree is in mathematics, and I spent a career in engineering. So that makes me a self-trained photographer, a self-trained artist. I got interested in photography when I was 11 years old. My grandmother gave me my first camera. But I have to say that for years, the film cameras were very frustrating to me, and maybe that's the engineer in me, because I would shoot 24 or 36, a roll of 24 or 36 negatives or slides, and be very unhappy with the results. And prints were also kind of hit or miss, and mostly miss. And so when digital came along, it was a real revelation for me. And the digital darkroom on my desktop gave me a lot more freedom in a lot more creative control. My photography resume includes an article that I wrote entitled Street Photography for the Photographic Society of America Journal that was published last August 2021. I've been a member of the PSA for 5 years, and I regularly participate in international exhibitions that are sanctioned by the PSA. I also do a lot of local print exhibitions, and I really love print. Currently, I have a couple of pieces in a show in an exhibit at the Arts League of Lowell, and I have 3 prints on exhibit in an exhibit at Gallery Z, also in Lowell. By the way, if you want to read my article on street photography, go to my website, edxphotos.com, and you'll be able to read it there. What is street photography? So I think there are 4 things that characterize street photography. The first of those is that it's spontaneous and unposed. So I don't like to have, when I take a picture, I don't want to have people mugging or acting for the camera. I want it to be totally natural. The second characteristic of street photography is that there's very little editing done to the images. Usually editing is constrained to color correction, conversion to black and white, and maybe cropping. And I'm not even a big fan of cropping because I think in many cases it takes away the context of the image. The third characteristic of a street photo is that it has to have people in it, in my opinion. I think there would be some people who would disagree with me, but I think that pictures of streets and buildings is architectural photography, and I think pictures of landscapes and parks is landscape photography. I think in both of those cases, in many times, if you add people, you get street photography. The fourth and final characteristic of street photography is that it tells a story. And that's not always true for me. Sometimes I will take an image for the pure aesthetic value, but most of the time my images tell a story. Now, this has some similarities to photojournalism and documentary photography, but the difference is in those two disciplines, the objective is to inform. And in the case of street photography, the objective is to tell a story. So as we go through the images, I have some images from the show that I'd like to show you and discuss. And as I go through those, I'll try to point that out. And also, I'll be telling two stories with each one of these images. First is the story of how the images were created, and the other is the story of exactly what the viewer, what I expect the viewer to take away from the photos. So with that, let's go to the first image. This one is entitled "The Wild One," and in my images I like parodies, and I like references to music or movies, literature. In this case, this is a parody, and it's a parody of promotional photos, black and white promotional photos of Marlon Brando as Johnny in the 1953 movie The Wild One. This next image is entitled "In the Eyes of Babes." This was taken on the Orange Line, and I was sitting across from these people. And this is one of those examples of the case where I needed to be very careful not to disturb what was going on. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten the kind of story that I got. Two things that I did, two settings that I changed on my camera to be able to achieve this. First of all, I changed to silent shutter so that the shutter noise when I shot the photo wouldn't distract these people. The second thing was that I was using live view so that I was able to frame the image on the back of my camera rather than looking through the viewfinder, because raising the camera to my face would have distracted these people as well. I've entered this image in a couple of contests, and the judges have had a pretty common complaint, and that is that the distractions in the image. One of the distractions they think is the pattern in the man's coat and in the headscarf, the woman's headscarf. And the other thing they point to is that the man's hand is cut off. But I really think this misses the point, and the point is the eye contact between the two babies. This image did achieve an acceptance at a PSA exhibit. This image is entitled "Check." This was taken at Mary Suhu Park in Chinatown. The thing I like about this is the look on the player's face. He's obviously made what he considers to be a decisive move, and the fiery pattern on his cap kind of accentuates that emotion. And the man to his left may be questioning the importance of the move. This one is entitled "The Angler." Now this, again, is a parody of the photos that you see in sports magazines and sometimes in newspapers of people holding up their trophy their trophy largemouth bass or standing next to a large sport fish hanging by the tail off of a gaff. This one is entitled, You Can Leave Your Hat On. The title is taken from a song written by Randy Newman in 1972. And this was a challenging photo to take because I was on my bicycle, and I would ride to catch up to this man, and then by the time I got my camera up and ready to shoot, I fell too far behind. Finally, I was able to get close enough and get the shot. The other thing that was fortunate was all the settings, my camera settings, my default street photography settings, all worked, and I knew that they would be appropriate to get the shot. This image is called Exposed, and this is taken at the Granary Burying Ground near the Boston Common. And it's a double entendre because the tourists in this case are exposed to the weather, and the one tourist spotted me and exposed me. And I suppose that she was exposed too because she wasn't paying attention to the lecture. This image is called I Am Skating LOL, taken at Frog Pond. Now, the title here is what I imagine she might be typing on her phone. And the thing that I find fascinating is the way that she's not paying any attention to her child, and they both seem very disconnected. This is entitled Junkrat of Overwatch, and this departs a little bit from what I mentioned earlier as one of the characteristics of street photography. But every once in a while, a street photographer makes a connection with their subjects. And in this case, I was at Comic-Con in Boston in 2017, and there were a lot of cosplayers there, and many of them like to pose for the cameras. And this was one of my favorite portraits that I got that day. The Junkrat, it turns out Junkrat is a character in the game Overwatch, and I never would have known that. I sent the image to my granddaughter and asked her if she knew who the character was, and she didn't know either, but she had a friend who plays the game Overwatch and identified the character as Junkrat for me. This next image is entitled Nuts. This was taken on Boston Common. And this is kind of a visual reference to the album cover for the Steely Dan Pretzel Logic album. And other things I like about this is that the contrast of the color of the push cart with the grays and browns in the background. I also noticed the vendor's face. He's kind of looking away and it seems like he's lost in his own thoughts. And there are very few people around to disturb him. This image is called Cornucopia, and cornucopia is the symbol of an abundant harvest and is often associated with the Thanksgiving holiday. And this image was taken around Thanksgiving. I just love the colors and the cacophony of all the colors of the fruits and vegetables. And then the path through the crates, and the woman sitting among the crates just kind of brings a little order and symmetry to the image. Oh, this was taken at Boston Market at Haymarket Square, kind of a Boston tradition. This is called Riverdance. This was taken on the Esplanade. I shot a couple of different versions of this, and I like this one the best because I think their foot positions make them look just a little bit out of balance, and so it makes the image dynamic. And also the position of their arms, the complicated entwining of their arms, kind of makes you wonder what kind of a deft move they're going to make to untangle themselves. This is called Stretch, and this is more aesthetics than message or story, because there are two things about the color and the lines. In terms of color, blue is the dominant color in this image. In terms of the lines, there is a left to right movement in the dock. The dock kind of draws your eyes from left to right. The rigging on the boats leans toward the right. And of course, the man is stretching toward the right. And all of that creates a tension, and you can almost feel the muscles in your body stretching along with him. This one is called Art in Life. And this is another example of a photo where the message is more important than the technical goodness of the picture. There's obviously some technical issues with this picture, but what it really is about is the woman and the sign that is up on the wall behind her. The sign is a Jimmy Choo poster advertising high-end accessories and fragrances. And so what this is about a collision between the world of high fashion and the commonplace. This next image is first snow at Haymarket Tea. I was downtown in Boston one day and I wanted to experience the first snow downtown, and I happened to be walking on Merrimack Street and saw this image in front of me, and I snapped at it. And the thing about it is the sidewalk is empty, and all the pedestrians are in the overhang of the tea building, the Haymarket Tea building. The other thing that, if you know this area, the other thing that impresses me about it is that all the pedestrians under that building overhang have displaced the homeless people that are normally found there. This image, Abandoned in the Rain, was also taken at that same location, but in this case I was under the overhang looking out toward Merrimack Street. I had the camera aimed toward the umbrella, waiting for something to happen that would give me a good photo. And when this woman walked by, I had what I was looking for. In this case, the Dutch angle creates some diagonals that create a lot of tension in the image. And it contrasts with the contrast and brings attention to the umbrella. This is called The Thin Man. The title of this was taken from a 1934 mystery novel. I thought it was kind of appropriate because the man is faceless and mysterious, and the long shadow makes it even more mysterious. I like Boston in the winter when it's sunny because of the long shadows. This was taken at the Civic Center Plaza. So I think the faceless man in the overcoat and the shadows make this a very mysterious image. The last image I want to show you is one that I call Tax the Rich. This is an example. Every once in a while I do some documentary photography, and every time when I see there are a lot of protests in Boston, and when I see a protest, I gravitate toward it to see what I can capture in photos. In this case, I actually went downtown for Occupy Inauguration Boston in January of 2017. And I embedded myself in the crowd of protesters. I got a lot of great photos from the experience, and this was one of them. And again, this is intended to inform. I don't have any political opinions I'm trying to express. This was just what happened that day. All right. So that's that's the last of the images that I plan to discuss with you today. I would encourage you to try to get to the gallery to see them in person, because you'll find them a lot different. You'll find the detail, the color, and the contrast in the black and whites to be very interesting in person. Also, check me out at EdXPhotos, EdXPhotos. no punctuation, and no spaces. If you put that into a search engine, all links to all of my social media and website presence will pop up. I really regularly post new content to several of those sites. So thank you for taking the time to watch. Oops, got a couple of questions. Let's see. Just some comments. Rob says, I love your work. I've been gravitating towards street photography lately. I was able to spend the storm in Boston this past weekend and got some great results, I'll bet. Rob also says it looks like a silver treatment on your black and white. Probably so, because again, I think looking at some of these images on a monitor kind of distorts the color. Usually when I process images on my computer, I do it on a calibrated monitor just to make sure that I get accurate colors and that my monitor represents what I'm going to get on the printer. So thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and if you like what you've seen, check me out on social media and subscribe to my YouTube channel, edX Photos. Time to go.